Houston, Texas, the fourth largest city in the United States, a sprawling metropolis known for its energy sector, cultural diversity, and booming economy. It's a city that embodies both opportunity and challenge, where opportunity often comes hand in hand with rising concern over safety. While Houston shines as a center of industry, innovation, and culture, it's also a city where crime continues to be a pressing issue. Over the years, Houston's crime landscape has been a complex and often contradictory one. For every step forward in reducing certain types of crime, others seem to surge. Some crime rates are on the decline, offering a sense of relief to the public. But at the same time, more serious offenses like homicides, armed robberies, and violent assaults continue to hold sway in some neighborhoods. In recent months, while the city has boasted of significant reductions in certain categories of crime, the rise of others paints a different, more troubling picture. Many residents look at crime statistics, yet still feel uneasy. The numbers don't always match the lived experiences of those walking the streets every day. Today, we're going to dive into the complex reality of crime in Houston. We'll uncover the nuances of crime trends, look at police reports that highlight the city's ongoing struggles, and reflect on the true impact of these statistics on the lives of Houston's residents. For neighborhood crime shifts to chilling high-profile cases, we'll examine what's really going on beneath the surface. It's a story about a city grappling with a balancing act between progress and peril, between law enforcement and community safety. But before we dive deep, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future real-life crime stories. Stay informed, and let's get started. In this video, we'll explore the many faces of Houston's crime problem. We'll look at how crime trends in Houston aren't as clear-cut as they might seem. Some neighborhoods see an alarming rise in crime, while others experience a drop. Yet, even with all this data, a sense of insecurity remains pervasive across the city. How do we reconcile these numbers with the reality on the ground? And what does it all mean for the residents living amidst it all? Let's begin this exploration of Houston's crime trends by looking at the bigger picture and some of the contradictory signals that emerge from recent crime data. Is the city really safer than it used to be? Or is the perception of safety at odds with the reality? When you look at the crime statistics in Houston, you're confronted with a paradox. On one hand, the data tells us that certain types of crime have seen notable declines. On the other hand, there are still many neighborhoods where residents feel as though crime is on the rise, with violence and property theft continuing to plague their streets. So what's really going on? Are we actually making progress? Or are we simply ignoring the underlying issues that still threaten the safety? Take, for instance, the neighborhood of Meyerland. Once a quiet, suburban enclave, Meyerland has recently become a focal point for rising crime. Despite the overall trend of decreasing crime in Houston, this neighborhood has seen a surge in both property crimes and burglaries. Residents here are feeling the brunt of rising thefts, with homes and vehicles being targeted by criminals at a troubling rate. What's especially concerning is that Meyerland's crime rates are increasing even as the city as a whole reports declines. This trend challenges the idea that all of Houston is becoming safer, and it serves as a reminder that while some areas may be improving, others are facing new, unforeseen challenges. In Meyerland, the primary culprits appear to be property crimes, specifically vehicle break-ins and home burglaries. The area's affluent reputation might suggest it's immune to such problems, but in reality, the rise in theft has left residents uneasy. People who once felt safe leaving their cars parked overnight are now worried about their vehicles being broken into. Homeowners are taking extra precautions, installing more security cameras, and enhancing alarm systems, but these measures often feel like band-aids on a much larger wound. For many, the feeling of safety that once defined the neighborhood has been replaced with anxiety and a sense of vulnerability. This brings us to Second Ward, another Houston neighborhood that paints a different picture from the overall city trends. While violent crime has indeed seen some decline in Second Ward, property crimes are on the rise, particularly vehicle break-ins and theft from parked cars. Unlike Meyerland, where property crimes are more isolated, Second Ward has seen these criminal activities spread across the area. The contrast here is notable. While violent offenses may have dropped in some sectors, property crimes are climbing, leaving residents feeling that their homes, cars, and personal belongings are always at risk. The unsettling truth is that some of Houston's neighborhoods are seeing their own brand of crime, a reminder that no part of the city is entirely safe from the reach of criminal activity. These two neighborhoods, Meyerland and Second Ward, illustrate how Houston's crime trends can vary dramatically, not just from year to year, but from one area to the next. What's happening in one neighborhood may have no bearing on another, and what's considered a success in reducing crime may not be felt by everyone living in the city. For example, the residents of Meyerland may be wondering why their home values aren't reflecting the same safety improvements seen elsewhere, while those in Second Ward are left wondering if their neighborhood's crime wave will ever subside. This contrast highlights an important issue. Houston's crime picture is far from uniform. The city's crime rate may be improving overall, but the experiences of its residents, especially in certain neighborhoods, tell a different story. The reality is that even in a citywide trend toward decline, there are pockets where crime remains an ongoing problem, threatening the sense of security that Houstonians so desperately crave. As we continue to examine Houston's crime landscape, it's crucial to understand these neighborhood outliers, the areas where crime trends are not following the citywide pattern and where residents are facing persistent safety concerns. What's driving these local spikes in crime, and what can be done to address these disparities? The answers to these questions might hold the key to truly understanding Houston's crime problem and how to make the entire city safer, not just select neighborhoods. As we shift our focus to specific incidents that have captured widespread attention, we can't ignore the fact that while crime trends may shift in one direction or another, certain high-profile cases continue to make their way into the public consciousness. These cases not only highlight the severity of the crimes committed, but also shed light on deeper, often hidden, issues that are at the heart of Houston's crime epidemic. Let's look at a few such incidents that have made waves. This case centered around a senseless murder at a fast food restaurant, a place that's usually associated with comfort and casual dining. But on this fateful day, it became the site of a brutal killing. The incident began with a trivial argument between two customers, a minor dispute over food, but what followed was anything but minor. One of the men, enraged by the disagreement, pulled out a weapon and shot the other in cold blood. The quick escalation from a simple argument to murder was jaw-dropping, and the entire case underscored the unsettling reality that, in Houston, even the smallest of conflicts can spiral out of control into life-or-death situations. The court's decision to convict the murderer and sentence him to life in prison sent a clear message that no matter the circumstances, this kind of violence would not be tolerated. But for many, the case also raised deeper questions about the state of conflict resolution in the city. How had a simple disagreement turned deadly so quickly? Could this tragedy have been avoided? And what does this say about how disputes are handled in a city where emotions sometimes run high? These three incidents, each horrific in its own right, serve as stark reminders of the dangers that persist in Houston. They show us that crime in the city is not just about the numbers. It's about the lives that are affected, the families that are shattered, and the broader social issues that these cases represent. Domestic violence, school safety, and the tragic consequences of seemingly insignificant arguments all point to the underlying complexities of crime in Houston. As law enforcement continues to address these challenges, the question remains, how can the city prevent such crimes from happening in the first place? And what steps can be taken to ensure that justice is served swiftly and fairly for all involved? As we move forward, we'll take a closer look at the broader societal impacts of these cases and the ongoing struggle to ensure safety in Houston's neighborhoods. As we continue to explore Houston's crime situation, it's clear that addressing this perception gap is just as important as addressing the crime itself. The question remains, how can the city not only reduce crime, but also rebuild the trust of its residents, ensuring that they feel safe and secure no matter where they live? Understanding this disconnect between perception and reality will be crucial in creating a city where both crime trends and community confidence are on the rise. As we dive deeper into Houston's crime landscape, it's impossible to ignore the significant challenges faced by law enforcement. While the police work tirelessly to reduce crime and apprehend offenders, the relationship between law enforcement and the community can often be a complicated one. Communication is key, but even the best efforts to keep the public informed can fall short when trust is fragile and fear runs deep. The fluctuating level of trust in the police and in the effectiveness of their efforts remains one of the biggest obstacles to improving public safety. Houston police, like those in many other major cities, regularly update the public on investigations, arrests, and their ongoing efforts to tackle crime. These updates, often delivered through press conferences or social media channels, are crucial for keeping the community informed about the progress being made in high-profile cases. However, no matter how transparent the department tries to be, the public's trust doesn't always align with the information being presented. Sometimes, the relationship between the police and the community can deteriorate, particularly when transparency is perceived as lacking or when the response to certain crimes feels inadequate. When there is a disconnect between what the police communicate and what the community experiences, trust begins to erode. For example, in areas where residents feel like crime is on the rise, even the most well-intentioned updates from law enforcement can seem like empty promises. The public might question whether police are really doing enough or if they're focusing on the right priorities. This frustration can escalate when police are seen as slow to respond to certain types of crime, or when resources are stretched too thin to address every concern. Residents of neighborhoods experiencing a surge in property crimes, for example, might feel that their worries are not being taken seriously, contributing to a growing sense of fear and resentment toward law enforcement. However, it's not just about how the police communicate. It's also about how misinformation spreads within the community, further complicating the efforts of law enforcement. One of the most glaring examples of this is the wave of false reports that surfaced recently concerning ICE activity at local schools. In several instances, rumors spread like wildfire, claiming that Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, agents were rounding up students and families in schools. These false claims sparked widespread panic among immigrant families and prompted public outcry, with many worried about their loved ones being detained or deported. As the rumors grew, so did the tension in the community. Parents pulled their children from school, fearing for their safety. Activists rallied, demanding answers from local authorities about the potential. These families are not just mourning the death of a person. They are mourning the loss of their sense of security. A sense of safety that many take for granted is violently ripped away, leaving deep emotional scars. The trauma extends beyond the family unit, reaching friends, neighbors, and even entire communities that feel the weight of the tragedy. The emotional aftermath of a violent crime is often invisible, yet it lingers long after the headlines have faded. These individuals live with the fear and sorrow that comes from knowing that at any moment, their loved ones could be taken from them. Then, there's the impact on students and parents following incidents like the one on the spring ISD bus. When a young child is exposed to violence, particularly in what should be a safe space like a school bus, it shakes the very foundation of the community. Parents send their children to school each day with the expectation that they will be safe, but when that trust is broken, it causes ripples of fear and uncertainty. The spring ISD bus incident, where a gunman boarded the bus with the intent to harm, didn't just traumatize the immediate victims. It shook the entire district. The thought that such an incident could occur in a place where children should feel safe is deeply unsettling for parents, students, and teachers alike. Afterward, parents couldn't help but wonder if their own children were safe on their way to school, or if they would be the next victims of a similar act of violence. The trauma of such incidents doesn't end with the physical harm, or lack thereof. It extends into the emotional toll on the community. Students become wary, and this contrast between the data-driven narrative of decreasing crime and the emotional reality of residents who feel unsafe illustrates the complexity of Houston's crime situation. While the data might show positive trends, The experience of living in the city for many people is shaped by the fear of crime and the memory of the incidents that have rocked their neighborhoods. For Houston to truly move forward and ensure that all of its residents feel safe, the city must address both the statistical declines and the ongoing fears that remain. It's not enough to simply reduce crime in some areas. The city must work to ensure that every neighborhood, every resident, feels the benefits of this progress. The question then becomes, how do we reconcile these two competing realities? How do we ensure that the improvements in crime data are felt across the board, and that the emotional scars left by crime are healed, not just covered up by statistics? For Houston, the path forward involves not just continuing the work to reduce crime in certain areas, but also addressing the underlying issues of fear, inequality, and mistrust that still exist. This will require collaboration between law enforcement, local governments, and the communities most affected